Hello, I am Sharnell Bryan. I am the National Treasurer for Gamma Xi Phi Arts Fraternity Incorporated. And as part of our social media program, Banned Books, where we recognize books that have been banned for, as we all know, are not good reasons, but also as a means of suppression, we are going to be reading, well, myself and members of my fraternity will be reading excerpts from some of these banned books. The one I'm reading from is called All Boys Aren't Blue, which is a memoir manifesto by George M. Johnson. So, to paraphrase what I'm going to be reading from, he talks about a childhood trauma or traumatic incident when he was very young, where he was kicked in the teeth and his teeth were kicked out. And he didn't want to smile for a very long time. So here we go. As an adult, I have gone through the unlearning to understand that my community's treatment of Black queer children is in fact a byproduct of a system of assimilation to whiteness and respectability that forces Black people to fit one mold in society. One where being a man means you must be straight and masculine. I didn't have the ability to separate my Blackness from my queerness. The loss of my smile was as much a denial of my Black joy as it was my queer joy. When I did smile, it was a coping mechanism. My smile was a mask that hid the pain of suppressing who I was. Masking is a common coping mechanism for a Black queer boy. We bury the things that have happened to us, hoping that they don't present themselves later in our adult life. Some of us never realize that subconsciously these buried bones are what dictate our every navigation and interaction through life. Oddly enough, many of us connect with each other through trauma and pain. Broken people finding other broken people in the hopes of fixing one another. I used to think that I had gotten over it if I took a good picture where I was smiling. But it only required one bad smiling pic to remind me of how trauma has a funny way of showing up in our lives during the moments when we least expect it. It can be an action that we write off as something else, when really it is the manifestation of a pain we had refused to deal with. A trauma that no one helped us fully process, or that they didn't have the skills to even know we needed help for. Boys aren't supposed to cry, so hold that in, sometimes to the grave. There have been times when I brushed my teeth too hard and got a taste of blood and was immediately taken back to that day. As an adult, crying in a bathroom mirror, pretending I didn't know why. Trauma appears all throughout pop culture, often sung by the masses as a hot lyric, penned by the performer as a release of that pain. The trauma is shared by the community too. Songs become our battle cries. Trauma becomes the thing that bonds us together. So much so that I've heard people actually say, I need sad Mary J. Blige to come back because her music is better. Our community struggles to connect with joy in a way that we have with pain. When I hear Cardi B say she got a bag and fixed her teeth, it's more than a cute line in a dope song. And yes, Bodak Yellow was a bop. But she is responding to years of hate and flack she received for having crooked teeth. She is talking about the trauma she dealt with and what she was able to do to gain back agency over those moments and then use it in a way to make folks proud. Every time she speaks about her teeth, she is allowing herself to work through the process of healing rather than be burdened by the weight of holding that trauma in. For years, I held that traumatic moment inside of me, and it was reflected in hundreds of pictures that captured my face absent a smile. I tried smiling with my mouth closed or making faces. As I got older, I would get hit on by guys and crack a smile. They would say, "You have a nice smile." And my instant reaction was to roll my eyes in disbelief. And I'd even have friends send me messages saying, "I noticed you don't ever smile." I would deflect the comments and give some reason that had nothing to do with what I was actually feeling. I still had that 5-year-old in me who was not ready to smile. This queer in me that couldn't fully be. January 15th, 2015 would signal a change in my smile-related trauma. My mother had 2 brain aneurysms that day. It was a dire situation and my family was very unprepared. As a 32-year-old, I knew I had to hold it all together. I was her eldest, and I knew she would need me. I remember the doctor saying, "It's time to take her back to the prep room. 2 people can come to walk her in." My father and I decided that it would be us. They wheeled her into the prep room right before you go into the OR room and told us, "You have 1 minute." My dad stood on one side of her bed and I stood on the other. He leaned in and gave her a kiss, and she said, "I'm going to be fine." I stood there, nervous, terrified. I finally gave her a kiss too. As I pulled away, she could see that I was choking up. In that moment, I felt like that 5-year-old sitting on his mother's lap just after losing his teeth. And she, in her moment of need, was my comfort. It was as if she always knew that I hadn't gotten past that day. And before she went to that operating room, she needed to make sure that I did. As a tear rolled from each of my eyes, she looked up at me and said, "Smile, Matt. Just smile." I gave her the biggest smile I ever had since the day I lost it. My mom survived her surgery, and I learned a valuable lesson about holding on to trauma. It's necessary that we do the work to unpack our. It's time for the world to let queer Black boys unpack their. Smile, Black boys.